Hello, I'm Adam,
I'm Dave.
and you're listening to Fiction.
Or nonfiction.
Cue the music.
Fiction. Or nonfiction.
Hey, so this is the program where we go through viral stories, we go through popular news articles, and we determine whether these stories are fiction or...
Nonfiction.
And Dave, I hear some rustling of paper over there. I'm very excited. There's been a few episodes where I've been bringing the stories to start off the program. Dave has one, and he's been researching this. He's been doing Raiders of the Ark style excavation in our old book archives. He's been just digging through manila folders. It's been incredible.
You always mention manila folders, but I don't have one. Can I get one?
I'll see. There's not that many left in my cubicle, so I'm very protective of them.
All right. But anyways, today we're going to talk about a very popular, and for the most part, it's a regional thing, which means it's very popular in the Windsor and Detroit area. It's a very popular drink, a soft drink called Vernors.
Ooh, Vernors. So for those of you who may be listening from outside the region, Vernors is a very popular type of...
Ginger ale.
Well, it's ginger ale, yeah. Although I think fans of Vernors would be hesitant to call it simply ginger ale because it has a very distinct, biting sort of taste. If you have not had Vernors, do yourself a favor, track it down. If you are part of the Windsor, Detroit area, you probably are familiar with it. And yeah, I think we have a lot of fans of Vernors over here at Windsor Public Library.
Yeah, so you know what? We got a lot of stuff to talk about because...
Okay, I'm going to say, fact, Vernors exist.
No, that's not my question.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to talk about a few different things. Vernors has been around since the mid-1800s. But what I'm going to ask you about is some stories based on their history that may be fiction or nonfiction.
And, you know, this is interesting. They have been around for so long. There are a lot of, I don't want to say tall tales, but there's a lot of stories going around about the origin of Vernors and kind of the legacy they've had in the region. I'm fascinated. I'm thirsty. Hit me with a Vernors.
This is a story I'll tell. And I want you to tell me, is this fiction or is this nonfiction?
Okay, hold on. We're going to set up some good background music for this. Okay, that's good. Go.
All right. So, Vernors was invented by James Vernor in 1862. Okay? From Detroit. He was a druggist. He worked at a pharmacy. Pharmacies were really different back then. It's not like now. But they would have things like you could get food in them. Oh, I guess you can get food in pharmacies.
But
now.
probably not like prepackaged food. Probably like an actual like a deli or something was there.
Yeah, it was different, and they would have all these like elixirs and things you could buy, like fast curing things.
Kind of like going to an apothecary almost.
I guess I don't know what that word means. So, but anyways, my first thing, one of the common stories that goes around is James Vernor, he went to serve, he enlisted, and he served in the Civil War in 1862. But before he did, he was experimenting with a drink, a type of ginger ale. And the reason he was doing it was really popular during this time. It was to help for stomach issues. Ginger ale and ginger is a known combatant if you have some sort of stomach issue, right? Or ailment.
That's true. I remember as a kid, you had the tummy troubles. You know, your parent would sit you down with a little glass of ginger ale to help quell your stomach aches.
Yeah. So anyways, he was trying to come up with something like that. And it said that he started this mixture and he left it and forgot about it. And then when he came back from the war 4 years later, it aged 4 years. It was in an oak barrel, and it magically transformed the drink, which is what's still being used today. So this is the origin story that is commonly stated. Do you think this is fiction or nonfiction?
Oh, interesting. For this, I'm going to say objectively, I question this just because of the manufacturing process of so much Vernors. I wonder how you could actually age that much product in oak barrels or in a similar process on a mass-produced level. So I'm going to say fiction.
Okay, so here's where it gets interesting. There's two sides to the origin story.
What?
Okay,
like a coin.
And as we always talk about, you got to try and find a reputable source to verify your information.
So what was your source?
Well, there's multiple sources, okay? Recently, they celebrated their 150th anniversary. At the time of recording this, I believe it's 156 years old. But anyways, there was an article, a series of articles that went out through the Detroit Free Press in 2016, celebrating its birthday. There's a lot of information on DetroitHistorical.org, which is a historical website for Detroit history. Mm-hmm. And then there's also this book, which we have here at the library that you can borrow, and it's about the history of Vernors. And it's called Images of America, Vernors Ginger Ale. This is by Keith Wunderlich, and he was just a super fan of Vernors. And he just started collecting it at a young age. He eventually started his own fan club. Anyways, after his own research, he put out this book, which has a lot of information as well. So basically, we're not 100% sure, but it's mentioned in this book and in a Detroit Free Press article, and then also on the Dr. Pepper Museum website. Dr. Pepper currently owns Vernors.
Oh, okay.
But the Detroit Free Press had a couple of very extensive articles that his recipe probably was developed after he came home from the Civil War. So following 1962, he might have had the idea, but they think that it was like a tale that they had in order to help sell the brand. It's never been officially confirmed, but that's what has been stated. So
it's been stated essentially it was just a fabrication.
They said maybe. So we're not 100% sure if this is fact or fiction.
When was the drink patented?
In 1880.
Oh, okay.
Patents often will come after the invention of something. Mm-hmm. But so I guess for this one, we're not 100% sure. So, but in all likelihood, it was invented maybe just after he came back from the Civil War.
So my question is about this myth about how it's aged in oak barrels. The way that Vernors is manufactured now, does the process involve aging in barrels?
See, that I'm not 100% sure because there's a secret mixture that he came up with that has never been revealed to the public.
Yeah, so just going off of my question, I have found a source from metnews.com. So according to this article, there was a major change in 1996 to the packaging of Vernors cans, where it no longer said that it was aged for 4 years. Now it was labeled barrel-aged bold taste.
Yes.
Because apparently there was a change in how it was manufactured. At that point, there was a switch from sugar to a high fructose corn syrup, a substance which there are some growing health concerns about, of course. Basically, what happened at that point was that the aging process in barrels would no longer facilitate with the high fructose corn syrup. So, the aging process has changed. It is actually aged for 3 years in oak barrels.
So it's still aged.
It's still aged in barrels. So you know what? I will say that at least they do have that. Again, that's an article dating back to 2005 from the Metropolitan News Enterprise.
Still barrel aged.
Still barrel aged.
And in the early days before carbonation existed for soda pop, he ran a drugstore. And it was on Woodward Avenue, the corner of Woodward and Clifford. He opened a soda fountain, which was the thing they did back then, because you couldn't go to the store and get pop or soda. You just couldn't do it. It wasn't...
Because it didn't come
carbonated. Yeah, the technology wasn't there yet. There was an early version of carbonated water that was developed, ironically, by a person with the last name of Schweppes, who would eventually invent Schweppes ginger ale.
Oh, okay.
So he started selling, and a lot of places what they would do is they would sell an extract of this with instructions on how to mix it in your soda fountain. So it became really popular. Vernors became extremely popular, and then he had to close his drugstore because Vernors became too popular. So he moved on to just focusing on the drink, and it looks like he moved closer to the Detroit River for that. And for a long time, it was part of the Detroit skyline. You could look over from Windsor, and you could see the Vernors sign.
Now, is that depicted in the book itself?
It is, yeah. There's photos of that.
Now, if anyone is interested, we do want to let you know you can borrow this from the library. Go to windsorpubliclibrary.com and check out our catalog. With your library card, you can borrow this book, and you can place a hold on it to reserve it online. But with that said, what happened thereafter?
So after he began to bottle it, he developed his own method for bottling and filtering the drink and water. And then eventually a plant opened. And really, Vernors is a reflection of Detroit's history, and it's part of the story of Michigan. It's part of their identity because it's a success story. I'm going to ask you if this is fiction or nonfiction. Okay.
Oh, I'm intrigued by this. Go on.
The oldest soft drink in America that is still being used is Coca-Cola, invented in 1850. Is this fact or fiction?
Oh, okay. Now, I'm going to say fiction only because but maybe it's not, because you're saying the oldest soda pop brand that is still being circulated, that's still
still around,
promoted. Even if there were ones before Coca-Cola, but there's regional ones. I'm going to say fiction.
You are correct. Coca-Cola, although it's been around for a very long time, is not the oldest soft drink.
Is it Pepsi?
It's actually Vernors.
What?
Yeah, Vernors 1862, Coca-Cola 1886.
Wow.
So it predates that, and it is often said to be the oldest soft drink in America.
Which is still being sold. That's incredible.
Still being sold.
They didn't invent Santa Claus, though.
No, they didn't.
So take that.
That was not Vernors. They had a gnome as a mascot.
He also had a beard.
Who else?
They had a beard?
Oh, okay.
Conspiracy going on?
One more Vernors fact before we go, okay? It is popular in Windsor as recent as last year and the year before in 2020. There had to be a pause on the making and manufacturing of Vernors due to the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
And there was 2 news stories on this on the CBC Windsor site. And anyways, the 2 main plants now is there's one in Mississauga, which serves the Ontario area.
Okay.
And then there's also one in Holland, Michigan.
Wow.
And there may be others, but those are the main ones. And so it's still located within Michigan. And it has branched out. You can get it in other parts of the U.S., but it's primarily in Ontario and the Michigan area.
Yeah, that's actually really interesting. And I think going towards a regional drink with a regional history, it helped an entrepreneur create a very successful business and franchise. And it is, as you said, the oldest existing soda that's still manufactured in America.
That's what it says. That's what all the research articles have stated.
Now, again, we have information about that at the library. If you're interested, visit our website, windsorpubliclibrary.com. Dave, since you provided the story, it's not time for a random Dave question/fact. I think it's time for an Adam anecdote where I'm going to give you something, and you have to tell me whether it's true or not.
Okay.
So, Dave, we were talking about soda, and there is a great legend about soda that I want to see.
Oh, I think I know what you're going to say, but continue.
No, Dave, tell me. What do you think it is?
I don't know. Continue.
No. Okay. So, there is a rumor, a long-held belief that if you consume Pop Rocks while drinking soda, that it can cause adverse health effects, including death.
Oh.
Is that true?
I would say it's not. It's fiction. Not true.
Are you sure about that?
Wait. No, I'm not sure. I'm just guessing.
Okay, so let's talk about this. What happens when you mix Pop Rocks and soda?
Well, it has an adverse reaction, like it'll explode type deal.
Mm-hmm. Because, Pop Rocks are very special candy. What's the big selling point of Pop Rocks?
They pop.
And they pop when?
When you eat them?
Yeah, when you put them on your tongue. Why is that?
I don't know. Science.
You're really helpful right now.
No, I'm not sure why.
You're not sure why. Do you want to take a guess?
No.
No.
I don't have any guesses. I'm not sure why.
Okay, so there are plenty of resources out there, ranging from live science to a book that we actually have at the library called Candy Science 2. And this gives instructions for how you can conduct very simple science experiments at home with your young one using candy and household items.
Okay.
So in this book, and in most resources you're going to find, it will explain the reason Pop Rocks pop is because the candy actually is formed around carbonation, just like soda. So what happens is there's a little bubble of carbonated gas within the candy. And what happens is once it dissolves on your tongue,
It pops.
it pops because the pressure from that is released, and boop, you get that little tingling sensation.
Ah, a little sugar pop.
Little sugar pop. Now, let's extend this further. Going from a sugar pop to a pop pop, what happens when you put Pop Rocks inside of soda?
Well, I'm assuming a similar thing, but on a larger, more aggressive scale. Your head explodes when you eat them, don't they?
Maybe. So basically what happens is once you pour Pop Rocks inside a soda, it blows up. It just gives this huge flume of foam, and it just basically acts like a volcano.
Okay, so it's a volcano of sugar.
A sugary volcano, that's right. With that said, obviously when you put the Pop Rocks in your mouth, you are getting a reaction, but nothing so volatile. What is it about putting it in soda that creates that volatile reaction?
Well, because it's all carbonated in soda.
Exactly. So what happens is you have, first off, the carbon being released from the candy, the carbon dioxide. Once the candy dissolves within the soda pop, that just erupts and it stimulates, again, all the compressed carbon dioxide within the soda, which just creates a huge reaction. So you have this huge sudden release of carbon dioxide.
What if you put the Pop Rocks in an open bottle of soda and you close it real tight quick before it explodes? What happens?
Well, it will probably start leaking out.
Okay.
But this is why, for the longest time, people have said, don't have Pop Rocks and drink pop because you will explode. We still don't necessarily recommend having Pop Rocks and drinking soda because you are going to have a sudden release of carbon dioxide, which means you're going to feel a bit gassy.
Okay.
However, that's what happens. What will happen is you'll have this sudden plume. You might get sick with a stomach ache, but in terms of long-term health effects, that's the worst that's going to happen. It will be essentially the equivalent of having a bad case of gas. There is nothing fatal about consuming Pop Rocks and then drinking soda. So this urban legend is just that. It is clearly fiction. And just going through Snopes, the fact-checking organization that I was talking about in a previous episode, they actually unpacked the myth. From what they see, there has been no reported cases or proof of anyone being hospitalized, made sick, or dying from consuming Pop Rocks and soda. This is just an urban legend. It is fiction. Well, Dave, this was a very sweet episode, if I do say so myself. Grab yourself a can of Vernors. We're not sponsored by them, but, enjoy that. Have some Pop Rocks, and
You can get more information about the stuff we talked about today through the Windsor Public Library, through reputable sources, as we mentioned. There's the book, Images of America, Vernors Ginger Ale, you can borrow, and then those books you were mentioning.
That's right. In fact, I encourage you to check out Candy Science too if you have a young scientist in your household, or if you yourself just want to try some tasty experiments. You can also learn how to run the colors off of Skittles to make a rainbow painting, and how to melt marshmallows. A lot of fun. Some parental guidance is suggested for that. And with that said, Dave, I'm feeling thirsty after this episode. You want to go grab a Vernors?
Sure, let's go.
Okay, in the meanwhile, stay hydrated. Make sure you consume your candy safely. I'm Adam.
I'm Carbonation.
And we have been Fiction
or Nonfiction.